So here's a guy who's a hero to one nation, a true founding father of industry. But to his home country, he's a flat-out traitor. This is the story of Samuel Slater, a man whose legacy is, well, incredibly complicated. And this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the British view. Slater the Traitor, the man who stole their most valuable national secrets. But on the other side, the American perspective, a nickname he supposedly got from President Andrew Jackson himself, father of the American Industrial Revolution. These are two powerful, completely opposite ways of looking at the exact same person.
So that's the big question, right? How does that even happen? How can one person's life be seen as this grand act of patriotic creation and, at the same time, an act of profound betrayal? To figure that out, we've got to go back to the beginning.
All right, so let's rewind. Our story starts in England, the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. This first part isn't about building factories or anything like that. No, it's about an incredible act of industrial espionage, with the master plan hidden in the most secure place imaginable, inside Samuel Slater's own line.
Slater's journey starts young, really young. He's working in a cotton mill at just 10 years old. By 14, he's an apprentice to a guy named Jedediah Strutt, who happened to be the partner of the legendary Richard Arkwright, the genius who invented the water-powered spinning frame. So for 7 years, Slater wasn't just doing a job. He was soaking up every detail, every gear, every single secret of the most advanced technology on the entire planet. And then, when he turns 21, he makes his move. Now, you have to understand, what Slater was planning was a huge deal. Britain knew its textile technology was its golden goose. They guarded it fiercely, passing laws that made it illegal for skilled workers like him to even leave the country, and exporting machine designs absolutely forbidden. So Slater's plan wasn't just a career change, it was a crime. This was a full-on heist, but not like in the movies. He didn't steal paper blueprints, he became the blueprints. He memorized the entire incredibly complex system. Then he disguised himself as a simple farm laborer to get past the authorities, hopped on a ship to New York, and he carried nothing, not a single drawing that could get him arrested. The entire future of American industry was literally all in his head. Okay, so he pulls it off. He gets to the United States, a brand new country that's just itching for its own industrial boom, but has no idea how to do it. The spy mission part is over. But now comes the really hard part, taking all those memories and actually building a real working factory from nothing. And it's there, in Rhode Island, that he finds the perfect partner, Moses Brown. Now, Brown was a rich merchant, he had the money, he had the ambition, and he had a great spot on a river. But his attempts to build a mill on his own, a total failure. His machines were junk, he had all the ingredients for success, except for one thing, the secret recipe. And Slater had it memorized. And this is where Slater just lays it all on the line with this incredible offer. Can you imagine the confidence? He basically says to Brown, look, fund my project, and if the yarn I make isn't just as good as what they make in England, I won't take a single penny, and I'll personally toss everything we built right into the river. Brown, who had already failed, decided to take that back. And look, he didn't do it alone. This was a real team effort. You had Brown with the money, you had local blacksmiths, the Wilkinsons, forging every single metal part based on what Slater was describing from memory. And in 1793 in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, they did it. The first successful water-powered cotton mill in America roared to life. The revolution was officially on. So that first mill, it wasn't just a building with some machines in it. It was like a single spark that set off a massive chain reaction, one that would completely reshape the economy, the society, and even the geography of the United States. To make all this work, Slater had to invent a whole new way of organizing labor. It became known as the Rhode Island system. See, he didn't just hire individual workers, he brought in entire families. And then he built whole towns around his mills. Company housing, company stores, even company churches. He wasn't just starting a new business, he was engineering a new way of life. And life inside this system, well, it was complicated. On one side, you've got this kind of paternalistic vibe. He even sponsored a Sunday school to teach the child workers how to read and write. But on the other side, and this is a big one, his very first employees were children, some as young as 7 years old. And all that company control eventually led to conflict. In fact, the very first factory strike in U.S. history happened in 1824 at one of Slater's mills. Now, these new, super efficient factories in the North, they were hungry, incredibly hungry. They needed a constant, massive river of one raw material to keep the machines running: Southern cotton. And this chart, wow, it just shows you the explosion. Look at these numbers. In 1793, the year Slater's mill opened, the South produced about 3,000 bales of cotton. A mere 7 years later, that number shot up to nearly 180,000 bales. That's not just growth, that's a completely different world. And that cotton explosion basically split the country in two, economically speaking. In the North, you've got the start of this industrial powerhouse full of factories. But in the South, well, it became the Cotton Kingdom. And the soaring profitability of cotton didn't just keep the institution of slavery alive. It fueled a massive, horrifying expansion of it to feed the hungry northern mills.
So let's circle back to the man at the center of all this. After sparking this massive fire that transformed a nation, what did Samuel Slater's life and legacy end up looking like? Oh, he did pretty well for himself, to say the least. By the time he passed away in 1835, he wasn't just some guy who ran a mill. He was an industrial tycoon, owning a whole empire of 13 different mills. The spy had become a king. And this table, really, it just sums up the whole contradiction of the man. On one side, you have the father of industry narrative. He sparked a revolution, created jobs, got praise from the president. But then you look at the other column, at the complicated reality. His entire career was based on industrial espionage. His system ran on the labor of young children, and the very industry he built fueled the demand that locked slavery into the South. Both of these columns are completely true.
So where does that leave us? Slater's story is just this powerful, messy reminder that progress is never, ever simple. He was a visionary and a traitor, an innovator and an exploiter. And his story forces us to look at our own world and ask a pretty tough question. What are the hidden costs and the unforeseen consequences of the technological revolutions that are happening all around us right now?